This is the speech that could have saved China, but no one listened. Not the party, not the people, not the world. And now China's collapse is no longer a prediction. It's happening. March 2012, Wen Jiabao's final press conference. Most people don't remember this moment, but I do, because in this one speech, Wen Jiabao, the last semi-reformist leader of China, told us the truth. And then he walked off the stage into silence.
没有政治体制改革的成功，经济体制改革不可能进行到底。已经取得的成果还有可能得而复失。文化大革命这样历史的悲剧还有可能重新发生。
For those who don't understand Chinese, what Premier Wen said is, without the success of political reform, it is impossible for China to fully institute economic reform. The gains China has made will be lost, and historical tragedies such as the Cultural Revolution may happen again. In short, no political reform means no more economic reform, and without both, China is heading straight back into economic and political collapse. Now, let me break that down for those who don't speak fluent CCP. Premier Wen wasn't just being cautious. He was sounding the alarm. He said, we can't keep growing without changing politically. We will lose everything we have built if we don't change course. And yes, we might relieve the horror and tragedy of the Cultural Revolution. In China, that's like dropping a nuclear bomb at a press conference. Wen didn't say Xi Jinping's name. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room knew who he was talking about. Let me give you some context. Premier Wen Jiabao was not a dissident or outsider. He was China's premier from 2003 to 2013. Basically the prime minister of China, the face of reform, the man who handled the 2008 financial crisis. He pushed for market reforms, middle-class growth, and tried gently to nudge China toward political openness. But by 2012, he saw the writing on the wall. The rise of Xi Jinping was no secret, and Xi had no interest in any reform, only in control. So Premier Wen did the only thing he could. He dropped the truth bomb on national television in front of the world, and then completely vanished from Chinese politics. Back in 2012, China was riding high. GDP was still soaring, tech was booming, real estate was still too big to fail, and foreign investors were in love with the China dream. But under the surface, the cracks were forming. Massive local government debt, an overheating property market, a corrupt legal system, and growing resentment among youth over inequality and censorship. Premier Wen saw it all, and he knew without transparency, without rule of law, without limits on power, this was going to implode. A few months later, Xi Jinping took power, and everything Premier Wen feared, it became China's policy. Xi didn't just ignore the warning, he buried it. He abolished presidential term limits. He launched an anti-corruption campaign that doubled as a political purge. He crushed civil society and independent media. He unleashed state surveillance at scale. And he went full authoritarian, basically Mao 2.0 with better tech. Where Premier Wen saw a need for reform, Xi saw a threat to his power. And he made his choice. Power over prosperity, fear over freedom. Now, fast forward to today, China isn't rising, it's sinking under its own weight. Let's count the weights. Real estate in free fall, Evergrande Country Garden, and half the cities in China drowning in debt. Youth unemployment is so bad they stopped publishing the numbers. That's not a solution, that's a cover-up. Foreign investment? Gone. Capital flight is real. Western businesses are pulling out. Chinese elites are moving their money and their kids abroad. Innovation stifled. Jack Ma was the canary in the coal mine. Now, China's tech sector is a shadow of what it was in 2015. Consumer confidence collapsed. The Chinese middle class is hoarding cash. They're not spending. They're too scared. Premier Wen predicted it, and it's happening. And you know what? The West still didn't listen. Wall Street kept pouring money in. The Davos elites kept praising the China model, and Western politicians too busy selling out for cheap Chinese goods and campaign cash. I was in Beijing back then, and I remember how many foreigners kept saying, "Relax, China is opening up, give it time." They were wrong. The door to reform was slammed shut in 2012. And it's never been opened since. You want to know how serious Premier Wen's warning was? He mentioned the Cultural Revolution, one of the darkest chapters in modern history. Mass persecution, starvation, public execution, total state collapse. When Chinese leader says this could happen again, you would better pay attention. But instead, Xi gave us a digital version of Cultural Revolution. Thought control via algorithms, royalty tests, fear-driven conformity, and the purge of anything that smells like independent thinking. Premier Wen saw it coming, and he tried to stop it. Here's the bitter truth. China didn't have to collapse. It was a choice. Premier Wen Jiabao gave China an off-ramp, a way to evolve, to reform, to avoid disaster. But the party chose differently. Xi chose control. And now the consequences are unraveling in slow motion. This wasn't fate. This was arrogance. This was ideology over intelligence. This was the death of reform in real time. If you want more honest takes on China that cuts through the propaganda, hit that subscribe button. Share this video with anyone still drinking the China Kool-Aid. And remember, sometimes collapse starts not with an explosion, but with a whisper that no one wanted to hear. Premier Wen Jiabao whispered a decade ago. Xi Jinping shut him down. And now, China is cracking.